How do you assess those guys that are coming back, some of the returners you've got?
I hate to give them an evaluation just yet. Cam's the one, obviously, that has a ton of the tape. I can see the athleticism, things like that. Cam's had a great attitude since I've been here so far. I'll say that, and all those guys have. I think him and Wesley Steiner and Woodyard and all those guys and Eugene Asante. I think they've really accepted me with open arms, and we've had a lot of one-on-one meetings already. So I'm excited to get them on the grass and see what they can do.
Can you talk some more about Robert Woodyard and what he brings to your group?
Yeah, it's hard to tell just because he didn't play yet. He's more of a true Mike body. He's a bigger guy. I think he's got a tremendous attitude. He's always in the building, which is what everybody told me when I got here, that he was a guy that spends a lot of time in the facility. And so that so far has been really good. Pretty mature for a young kid.
Josh, I'm just curious, but how do you label your guys, like system-wise? You have a Sam or a Mike or a Will, or
those inside guys are a Mike and a Will. Yes, sir. Yep. And then we'll have a Sam linebacker occasionally that might come from my room or that outside linebacker room. That's kind of an interchangeable guy. Yep.
And what about the other outside guy?
He's a Jack.
Jack.
Yes, sir. Yep.
And is Jack kind of like a pass rusher guy, an edge guy?
Yes, sir. Yep.
What do you look for each of your positions? What sort of body type? What sort of player do you look for?
Coach Roberts and I had that conversation earlier this week. I think we can go into it and say in the past, this type of style of a player has done well at Mike, this one's done well at Will, but this staff on defense especially, we're not going into the spring saying, this is who we are, this, that, and the other. We're really more so getting out there, seeing what our guys are good at, and having enough confidence in ourselves as coaches to run the scheme that'll put them in a position to make plays. We don't ever want to handcuff our guys into being in a system that they don't fit in, right? Especially in today's climate where your roster might flip a little bit, or being a new staff, right? You need to be a good enough coach to tailor your defense to what they're good at and not vice versa. So,
gotcha.
Coach, I'm sorry.
No.
What will be some of your main priorities to get accomplished with the linebackers in spring training?
I want them to understand my standard for effort and preparation. A lot of times the linebacker's kind of the quarterback of the defense, and that takes a different style of preparation. And then from an effort standpoint, that's just something that requires no talent, and I want them to see what that looks like and know what that is. It might be great. They might know it already. I don't know. But in the spring, that's what I want to see, the effort on and off the field from a preparation standpoint, and then the effort on the grass.
How important was it to add a couple of SEC linebackers through the portal?
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. I wanted experienced guys that yet had some years on them, and what better experience than to have guys who have played in this league, right? Because it's obviously a lot different than any league you can play in. So with those two guys, one having 3 years, another one having 2, I felt like we hit a home run in terms of getting what we wanted out of both, because they both have experience, but they both have years. So,
talk about your decision. How tough a decision was it to go from coordinating to being a position coach here at Auburn?
I don't know how many people know this, but I was the D-line coach at Liberty for the first 3 years, and then became the coordinator. And I really kind of switched what we did on defense. We played a really tough schedule last year at Liberty, and I knew we needed to be aggressive, and switched a few things. And the defense I studied was Baylor, actually, and I actually copy and pasted Baylor's defense basically, and hired some guys who had ran that system, and that's what we did. So when I had a pretty good idea that Coach was going to hire Coach Roberts, that really sealed the deal for me about me wanting to come here and learn from him. He's one of the best minds in college football, and it's going to be really neat for me to be with him this year.
What are some things you like about his defense?
Just what I said earlier. He carries enough defense and carries enough scheme to where we can tailor things to what they're good at, right? There's a lot of pressure on the coaches to have answers within the scheme to put them in a position to make plays, right? So I think that's what makes him special with Coach Roberts is I don't think you can, when you turn his defense on, I don't think you can say they're a this, they're a that. He's got a lot of answers on how to attack people week to week based on the offenses you face, which is great in this league because in this league you're going to face teams that throw it 60 times all the way to the Alabamas and Georgias that'll have 3 tight ends on the field, So, I think that's what makes a great coordinator on defense is you've got to have a big enough toolbox to have answers.
Coach, today's linebackers has to cover a lot.
Yeah.
Do things of that nature. But in the SEC, they're going to run the ball right at you. How do you balance their mentality of I've got to play downhill, but also got to be able to cover and do all that?
Well, I think the cover and things you spoke about first, that's the athletic ability, right? So that's on the recruiting aspect of it. I can't make a guy fast. I can't make him long and rangy and things like that. The tackling, the physicality, they might have that. They just don't know how to use it yet, right? So I think that's where the coaching comes into play, right? And like you said, there's so much asked on linebackers these days with the types of offenses you face. Like I was saying earlier about the differences, you better have a guy that's really dynamic. That's the word I use a lot is, I'm looking for dynamic linebackers because we can't sub those guys in and out. They got to be able to play all 3 downs. And so really we've got to do a great job of identifying and recruiting dynamic athletes to play linebacker.
Josh, Coach Freeze mentioned that he has never experienced the last couple months, his entire career he's been through at Auburn as far as recruiting, being on the road, putting together his staff. How have you seen him sort of push through that, handle that? What's it been like just watching him?
Coach is one of the best I've been around just when he gets in front of recruits' parents and things like that. Obviously, we can't get in front of their parents when we're on the road right now. We're just talking to their coaches. But just to see him go on the road and crush it in some of the top high schools in the South, and then to come back and those kids, their schools, we went to, we got them to come to junior day or to come on campus. To just kind of knock it out of the park and get in it. We got to get some of them. We were already in the race. Some of them we had to get in the race. And I think a huge part of that is Coach Freeze. Because he's a very relationship-driven head coach. He's not a CEO head coach that's standoffish or just only going to see you at practice and things like that. And so it was cool for me to see that. I knew that already because we had worked together, right? But just you give him the same size stick as everybody else to fight with, and he's going to crush it. And that's what I've seen over the last few weeks.
I ask you to apologize if you've already been
Yeah.
this opportunity at Auburn, what made this something that you wanted to be a part of, and the identity of the linebacking core under your leadership?
The first thing was the opportunity to work with Coach Roberts. Obviously, working with Coach Freeze, I'm very close with him, being at Liberty the last 4 years. I grew up in the South. I grew up in Jackson, Tennessee, and I grew up around the SEC, and just the opportunity to coach in this league and coach that level of athlete really excited me. Getting in those recruiting battles, I love that aspect of it. I'm really excited about that. And then the identity of our linebacking crew, I think that needs to be the quarterback of the defense. I think we're the foundation of the front and the back, right? So we've got to be the most dynamic players on the field, like I was saying earlier.
Josh, for you, this is an area, you're familiar with it because you're from here.
Yep.
You recruited this area already. How valuable was that for you kind of starting?
Big time, man. I think, not to toot my own horn, but I coached D2 ball for 7 years, right? So I had to scratch and claw to get some players. And me and those high school coaches, especially in Georgia, developed some real relationships. Guys I talk to, not just when I need something, and I think that'll come into play when it gets down to the nitty gritty with some of this stuff. But I think it pays huge dividends, right? And I walk in their school and I got a much different logo on than I did 7 years ago, and but they're just as excited to see me then as to now. Some of those high school coaches, similar to me, were at really small 1A and 2A schools, and now they're coaching some of the best 6A and 7A schools in the states down here. So It's been really fun. I've really, I thought about the other day, I've really recruited the exact same area for 8 straight years. I mean, the same high schools, the same counties, the same coaches. And so it's really fun to be recruiting a different level of athlete.
You said you recruited Georgia?
I did.
All of the state or just part of it?
A lot of South Georgia and all through Atlanta. Yes, sir.
So some places where Auburn normally gets a
Yes,
lot
sir.
of players
Mhm.
from.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
When you go into high schools, when you go into homes, how would you describe yourself as a recruiter?
I'm very real. I'm very transparent. I think kids see through that if you're not. I tell them all the time, I'm not a car salesman. I'm not going to walk in there and give you some pitch. I think Auburn sells itself. It's not something I got to dress up or trick somebody into coming to. I think because I have a prior relationship with a lot of people, there's no pressure from me to put on some type of front or anything like that, right? So I just say it's very transparent.
Looking at this 24 class, you have kind of an older room. How important is it for you to bring in a couple of talented guys in the 24 class?
It's real important. Even though we're an older room, we didn't sign a high school linebacker in this class. So signing one in this class, signing 1 or 2 in this class is going to be a big deal. Because those guys will probably have to play. I think it's very critical that position because I think linebacker was the only position we didn't sign somebody at as a high school player last year. Maybe tight end, but so I think it's very critical that we sign a couple good high school linebackers in this class. Yes, sir.
Would you also be looking potentially at another transfer if the right one's out there? And what type of one would you be looking
I
for?
couldn't speak to that necessarily. I think transfers depend on how you guys on your roster are performing or people leaving and things like that. But I wouldn't at this moment. I don't see that. No, sir.
I'm sure you've been asked about it, but how important was it to get Austin and Mario in? It's guys who have been in the SEC to come play in your position and be able to kind of transition right in.
Yeah, that's what I told them earlier. It was a big deal for me for 2 things. One, to get guys with experience, and then the best experience you can have are guys that played in this league already. And then 2, to have guys that had some years on them, right? That way they're not just here for 1 year and all of a sudden I got to recruit another whatever, So with DeMario having 3, DeMario was almost like signing a high school player, right? And then Austin having 2. But starting quite a few games in this league, and is really already built like an SEC player. DeMario needs to gain a little weight still, I don't think we could have signed 2 better linebackers in the portal than what we did, to be quite honest. I'm really excited about them and how they've done so far.
I think that was the thing that stood out to Austin, like when you guys signed him, like how huge he is for a linebacker. Just what stood out to y'all when y'all were evaluating and saying, okay, this is the guy we want.
We really, in that room, without coaching them yet, a lot of those guys we inherited are really good athletes. You know what I mean? They're not like necessarily what you would describe as like a true in the box linebacker. You know what I mean? And I wanted a big dude in there. We needed a guy like that in that room. So that was what really attracted me to him. I just wanted he's the biggest linebacker we have right now, from a combination of weight and length. Like Cam's really long, but Austin's a little heavier, I just thought we needed to get one of those big mics in the room.
Coach Roberts has a really big reputation for doing creative stuff on defense, particularly with your linebackers. Like, how exciting is it for you as a coach to kind of work with him, knowing his track record and what he likes to do at your position?